Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland. With me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast. Today we are sharing wedding speech tips for brides, and I've got two categories that we're going to cover today. First, we're going to talk about everything to do with wedding speeches where the bride is the one coordinating everyone, and basically you need to have an understanding of who does the speech, what they should cover, and how to really get them to work together. And then secondly, we're going to talk about brides who are actually giving a speech at their wedding. And I've got some amazing expert tips from Melanie from Instanza, who's going to share a little bit about that. But let's get started. If you're the one coordinating everyone giving a wedding speech, it's really important that you start by deciding who's going to give a speech. And there are a few ways you could go about doing this, and it's different for different couples, but I'm going to walk you through the traditional way of doing things. And keep in mind that the traditional way doesn't account for modern couples, for brides delivering a speech, for a mixed gender wedding party or a same-sex couple, and so many other iterations of things that aren't really covered. But the traditional order would be this. You would first have the father of the bride, then the father of the groom, then the groom, and then the best man. I've also seen it done where you swap the last two, so it's the best man and then the groom. But this is a more modern way of doing things. How about you have the parents of the couple, either together or separately, or one set of parents, then the other set of parents. Then you have the friends and siblings of the couple, again, separately or in groups or pairs. You could have, the people that are part of your side of the wedding party, then the people that are part of your partner's side of the wedding party. There's so many iterations of how you could do that. And then, of course, the couple. And it's up to you to decide if you will give your speeches together or separately, or if you both even want to give a speech. But that's the kind of outline of how things work. And this is what each group should cover in their speech. First, let's talk about the parents. Traditionally, the parents would welcome the guests and thank them for being there. And that's because traditionally the parents would be the ones paying for the wedding, and therefore they would be hosting it. And so it's appropriate for them to welcome everyone. Now, for the modern couple that's paying for everything, that probably doesn't feel like a great fit. And so if that's you, feel free to just cross that one out. Here are a few other things that the parents can cover. They should welcome their child's partner into the family. They should, of course, spend some time saying some lovely things about their own child. Then I love when parents share the moment that they thought, this couple is a good couple. I love hearing stories like, the moment that you came home from a date and you shared this thing about your partner, that's when I knew that you guys were meant for each other. Those kinds of stories are always really special, and they bring a tear to so many people's eye. And then finally, the parents can end with a toast to the newlyweds. Now, moving on to the friends and siblings. Traditionally, the best man would start by saying something complimentary to the bridesmaids. And so a modern interpretation of that is whoever is delivering a speech on behalf of the friends, the siblings, the wedding party, could say something lovely about the rest of the wedding party. It could be complimenting the outfits, or just saying, hey, it's been so much fun, planning the hen party or the stag do together, and really being with this couple and celebrating them together. You can find a way to personalize that. Then you want to take some time to really get them to share stories about you as a couple. I love hearing the friends and the siblings talk about, growing up with the couple, growing up with one of you and then meeting the other one, and just hearing those really fun, meaningful accounts of watching you as a couple. It's always fun to hear that from the perspective of the friends and the family. The friends and siblings can also read out messages from absent guests if appropriate. And I'm adding the if appropriate because sometimes the guest who wants their note to be read is somebody who probably wouldn't have delivered a speech and may have sent a note that will take 10 minutes to read. But if it's your brother or the person who was going to be in the wedding party delivering a speech and they've got a short note, then that might be the most appropriate way to incorporate them into your big day. If it doesn't feel like the right fit, you could always get that note given to you. You could read it and then send a message to the person who sent it to say, oh, we got your note. Thank you so much. We wish you could have been here. So find what works for you. And then again, you want them to end with a toast to you. Now, you as the couple, you'll want to start by thanking everyone for coming to your wedding. Now, this doesn't have to be just for those of you who are paying for the wedding. Even if you haven't contributed anything to the big day, it's still your wedding. You're the ones who have invited everyone. And so you get to thank everyone for being there and celebrating with you. You then want to say something lovely about both sets of parents. So it's great to say something to your own parents about how they've raised you to be the person you are today, how they've contributed so much to your life, and then to say something to your partner's parents about how they've raised them and how you've just loved seeing, the role that they have in their life. And there's so many lovely things you could say to each set, but you want to make sure you say that. And then out of all the things that you could say, well, first you want to say something to your wedding party and siblings as well, of course. Thank them for everything they've done in your life, for the day, and all of that. And then you want to end with the most important bit, where if you've forgotten everything else on the list, this is the one thing you should remember, to say something about your partner. So whether you're doing your speech together and you're both there looking at each other, or if it's separate and your partner is seated and you're talking to them, you want to make sure that you say something really lovely about them. And that's the moment that everybody's waiting for. They want to know that you have prayed for your spouse for so many years and this person is an answer to prayer. They want to know about the moment you met or the moment that you knew that this person is the one. That's what you want to have in your speech. So that's who should be doing speeches and what they should cover. But if you want to coordinate everyone, there are a couple of things to think about. The first thing is when to have your speeches. And there are a few options, and it depends a lot on the food situation. So if you are having some kind of canapes or, a bread table or any kind of food during cocktail hour, then it is acceptable to have your guests come into the reception hall and to have at least one speech or toast at the start. But if guests are going to be hungry, you probably want to feed them before speeches. So one of your options is you have the starters come out, then you have one or two speeches, then you have the mains, then you have one or two speeches, and then you have dessert. I always recommend getting some food in people's bellies first because that'll help them to really be present, to be paying attention, and not to have rumbling tummies and just thinking, I can't wait for the speeches to be over. And what's going to help with that is the next point, which is to help with timing. You want to make sure that people stick to a time limit. And so I'm certainly not suggesting that after 3 minutes you stand up and say, okay, you're done, get down. But all you got to do is just communicate ahead of time what your expectation is. So I recommend 3 minutes is what people should aim for, and definitely no longer than 10. Some people can get away with being on the upper side of that limit, like the couple and sometimes the parents. But if each person giving a speech drones on and on for 10 minutes and you've got 5 speeches, that's almost an hour of speeches cutting into your day. So have some thought about how many speeches you want and how long each person should get to speak for. If you're getting people to do a group speech, like your wedding party, for example, then you want to make sure that they know that the collective time is, 5 minutes or whatever you've given them. And you want to make sure that you're communicating as early on as possible. Some people love to prepare things like a photo montage or a song, and these special items actually take time to prepare. And if your speech givers are wanting to do something like that for you, it's really helpful for them if you give them as much notice as possible. Now, before we move on to tips for brides giving a speech, I'm going to share just a few important things to communicate with the people giving speeches on your wedding day. First, if you want them to cover anything in particular, make sure they know that. So I've given you a list of the kind of modern and traditional things that get covered by different people. And if anything on that list is something that you want them to include in their speech, share that with them and then they know. The next thing is you want to let them know when they're going to give their speech. So they want to know who's going before them and which part of the night the speech is taking place. And then I advise that they hold off on the drinks until after they've given their speech. Nobody wants to watch somebody slurring their words and, falling all over the place. You want it to be dignified but still fun. Then let them know about any equipment that's available to them. So will there be a microphone and a mic stand, or just a microphone? Will there be a lectern for their notes? If they have any visual aids, will there be a projector and a screen? Anything equipment-wise that they need to know about, make sure that you're communicating that too. And finally, as we mentioned, tell them how long their speech should be. You want to make sure that they know that they're aiming for 3 minutes. You could say 3 to 5 minutes if that feels fair, knowing that they're probably going to go a little bit over time. Okay, let's move on to brides delivering a speech. I had a chat with Melanie from Instanza, who is an absolute genius when it comes to wedding speeches and putting words together. And I asked her to share some amazing practical and helpful tips. You might recognize her because a few episodes ago, we spoke about 3 things that every groom should know. And Melanie shared some wedding speech tips for grooms in that episode. And I thought we have to have her back, speaking just to brides. And so you're going to love this. Have a listen to Melanie and what she has to say.
Well, hello, gorgeous brides-to-be. It's Melanie from Instanza here. I write traditional and rhymed wedding speeches, and I'm thrilled to be invited onto this podcast to offer you some practical and useful tips that'll catapult you into making a fabulous speech on your big day. So, girls, first things first, not every bride has to or wants to make a speech. If even thinking about making a speech on your wedding day leaves you short of breath or a little queasy, my best advice to you is to go with your gut and don't feel pressurised into making one. It's just not for everybody, and that's okay. Make your decision, stick to it, don't look back. I promise this will be the best decision for you. For the brides who would like to make a speech, can I just say it's a really fun addition to the big day, and as there's no onus or expectation for you to make a speech, you can set the pace. Having said that, here are a few pointers that might help. Plan it well in advance. This is key. I say this to everyone in the wedding party, no matter who they are. You need to start thinking about what you're going to say 4 to 6 weeks beforehand. Time flies in and there are lots of things that can't be done until the week of the wedding, but your speech can be done in advance. So tick that box before the facials, highlights, table plans and nails become a priority. If you don't know where to start, hire a professional, like my good self. Get in touch and we can have a chat about creating the right words for you to say in your big day. When your speech is complete, practice. Become familiar with the words. Stand in front of a mirror using a hairbrush as a mic. Honestly, this helps. It'll give you a huge confidence boost on the day. On the day itself, steady on the liquor, ladies. Steady on the liquor. This is vital, whether you're going to say something short and sweet or long and lingering, cool it on the juice. A wise old man told me once that behind every delicious fiancé can lurk a surprise mother-in-law. And if this is you, you need to think more Shirley Temple and less Moscow Mule. Start your married life as a means to continue, and complimenting your new in-laws coherently will truly work in your favour. Lastly, ladies, take a big breath. Start your speech and hold the microphone like an ice cream. Keep it just under your chin and leave it there until you stop talking. Talk the way you normally would. Don't shout. You don't want to sound like you're making an airport announcement for the final boarding call. Look at the wall farthest away from you and relax. Settle your nerves and take a moment to acknowledge where you are. Be yourself, be sincere and enjoy being in the company of the most favoured people in your life, and remember that each person there has your back. So good luck, brides. You've got this.
Well, wasn't that just brilliant? That was Melanie from Instanza sharing her expert tips for brides. I'm going to drop a link to how you can get in touch with Melanie, so if you would love her help with getting the words together, you'll know just how to do that. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered and edited by Glenn Hartman. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.